Watch this video, and hopefully it'll be somewhat informational. You'll also be receiving in the mail the flyer that we'll refer to, the handout that we'll refer to. So to start out with, I'm Terry Frederickson. If you don't know me, probably should know me. CEO of New Day.
I vaguely heard of you.
Vaguely heard of me. So this training is one of the core trainings that we have to do, and this training is about assistive technologies, overview of assistive technology. So assistive technology, kind of a broad subject. When I was preparing this training, there's a lot of information out there, but I really just kind of wanted to break it down and then kind of highlight some of the things that we're going to talk about. And basically some of the things that we use here at New Day. To start out with, though, I want to talk about an NPR article, and those of you that are on this video, you'll be getting the link when we send the video, and those of you that are in this training, we're going to talk about the article. I won't send it to you. We're talking about the article. The article is done by Emily Ladow. She is a person who is in a wheelchair, and she actually wrote this book, Demystifying, if I can talk, Demystifying Disabilities. What to know, what to say, and how to be an ally. And she comes out and she really kind of talks about, first and foremost, people with disabilities. You need to understand it's a lot like a pizza. How many of you have had a pizza that tastes exactly the same? I know Tina doesn't eat pizza, so she can't answer this. But how many of you had a pizza that tastes exactly the same? Like it's just made identical, right? If you have, it's pretty rare, right? Pizzas are usually pretty unique in themselves, right? Some have more cheese, some have less cheese, some have certain meats. Pizzas can be really unique, kind of like a snowflake, right? Snowflakes are unique. Each one is a unique, individualistic thing. And a lot of times when we talk about people with disabilities, what we like to do is we like to try to just lump that into one big sum, right? In fact, people that make laws and rules and try to do things for people with disabilities, they don't really look at it on an individual basis. A lot of times they look at it on a very, very big picture basis. They try to lump everybody into this category. And those of you on the video that might have heard that is the rain on this tin roof. Those of you in this room, we're getting a pretty good rainstorm to get that
Terry,
loud.
Can I make excuse for a minute?
Yes.
Okay, my car windows are down.
Oh, yeah, we have some of the car windows down, Kelly. We'll see in just a minute. Anybody else car windows down? Yes. Hopefully we don't have a flood here in New Day. Rains like that, they come pretty hard, but usually they don't last too long. So if we stop the video and start back and look wet, those of you on the video will know why. The second thing that she brought out was basically making sure that we always have people first language. A lot of times people will say disabled person. It's a person with a disability, right? Always make sure you use people first language when talking about disability. So as we're talking about this, as we're going through this, I find myself sometimes making that mistake, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, as I go to Boise and as I lobby and legislate and try to do things for people with disabilities, I too find myself sometimes forgetting about that unique stuff. So as we talk about this training, remember, each person you work with is very unique. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Second thing I'd like to talk about, or third thing, and really make sure that everybody in this room, everybody that's on this call, please know that the R word is a bad word, right? It's a bad word across the board. It is still used in diagnosis, but it's something that it should be avoided at all costs. And the reason being is it's a phrase that was used to become derogative, right? It was a phrase used to hurt people. So therefore we ask that you please spread the word to end the word. And that is the R word. Please work to change that word. It shocks me because I think because I'm in this world that I don't realize how many people don't know that, right? I was at a Sunday dinner the other night with my family. I mean, this is my family. And someone used that word to describe something that was going on. And I went, whoa, time out, right? I didn't make a big scene. I didn't jump off the table and like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. But what I did is afterwards, I grabbed the person and I said, hey, please do me a favor. Realize that word is really hurtful to a lot of people. And it was funny because as I'm walking up to the person, they went, I really effed up, didn't I? Yeah, you did actually. That was something we don't want to say. And they felt bad, and I said, I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm not the word police. I'm just asking you to be more mindful, right? So please spread the word to end the word, right? So let's talk about accommodations and having assistive technology. In front of you is your handout. I tried to break it out into categories. Really interesting. I was in a meeting today, and I never knew this until I prepared this training. I didn't know this, but they used a laughing emo. Emo's right. Is that the red doll? Am I saying that right? From Sesame Street. Elmo. But they had one that you push the hand, and it made it laugh and giggle and dance, right? And they actually created one for people with disabilities who can't use that motion, right? They have one that has a sensor motion to it. They have one that has a big red button that you can push, rather than having to just use the thumb and finger. And I thought, wow, I never thought about having adaptive toys for children. In my office right now, I have playing cards that are about the size of this book. And I did not know that those playing cards, when I bought them at the time, I thought they were just kind of a novelty at the dollar store. I was like, oh, cool. And I found out later when I was reading the back of the card box that they were used for people that have visual problems, right? Personal visual impairment. So, Kelly, get your windows up.
I can indeed confirm it's raining outside.
Yes. Yeah.
But fortunately, the rain is coming from a direction that all I got was my driver's side seat soaked.
Sweet.
Where you sit.
Just
Awesome.
where you sit, yeah. Something really cool. I'm probably going to use Robert a lot because I see Robert every day when I walk out of my office and stuff. But something really cool with Robert, and something I didn't realize was so important until Robert was going home from a baseball game, was his rear view, not mirror, but camera. Yeah, him being able to see. Now, I thought Robert had become psychic all of a sudden, because he would be like, hey, Terry, I'm like, how'd you know I was coming up behind you? I didn't realize he had this camera now attached to his chair where he could see me coming up behind him. It took me about a week. I was like, oh, he's not psychic. He has a camera now. When he accidentally bumped into something and it disconnected the cord on that camera, and I didn't realize how important that was, but he said he knew when cars were coming so he could scoot over a little bit further as the cars passed him on the road. And I made sure that he got home with daylight still. I was sending him every inning updates for the score because he was bummed he had to leave early, but we felt for his safety, right? And I didn't realize how big that camera was for him to have, because he'd never had that camera before. And of course, sporting equipment that's adapted to help people. Computers. We had a person who had visual impairment who worked for us as our secretary a couple years ago. And she had you can't see this on the video, but she had a screen about the size of that TV back there, flat screen for a computer.
It's about a 43-inch.
43-inch TV, thank you, Brian. 43-inch screen, and it was kind of cool because I think some people that came in thought she was like watching Netflix or something, and that was what her computer was for her work. So I realized how helpful it was to have that new technology of a flat screen that could fit on a desk. I mean, 10 years ago, that screen would have took up half of a room, right? I mean, lengthwise, height-wise. So being able to have that. Of course, how many of you in here use text-to-speech? How many of you sent something horribly offensive to someone because you use text-to-speech? Anybody? I'm the only one? Yes, right? Text-to-speech voice has been a huge, huge improvement for people with disabilities, to be able to not have to type, but to be able to use their voice. That, in fact, I had read an article, and I couldn't verify the article, but the article said that something to the gist of that technology, basically, the text-to-speech really came from people with disabilities using it long before it became a norm on smartphones. So, really cool. Any questions, comments so far? Vehicles, making sure that we have, ramps, lifts. I'm working on a grant as we speak, where I would love to buy a minivan that actually has a wheelchair ramp built into it. Just so you guys know, it's about an extra $30,000 to $40,000 to put that on a van, give or take. You can find some used ones for about 15,000, but very expensive to put those ramps on, the motorized ramps. Seat belts, having seat belts, the ones that automatically come down. Environmental adaptations. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, as someone who works in the world of disabilities, I get probably, and I'm not exaggerating, 3 phone calls a month about businesses calling me about these things right here. I will tell you guys, I didn't realize this until I came to New Day. Prior to New Day, I worked in the world of counseling. But when I came to New Day, I didn't realize how many businesses live in fear that they're going to violate the American Disability Act. So they are constantly in fear that they're going to do something wrong or not put something in right and do something. And I get called constantly, in which I refer them back to the ADA, the American Disabilities Act. I'm not an expert by any means, but they call me thinking I'll know the answers to such things as door openers, lifts, switches, and other things. I will tell you, if I've traveled a little bit, I've been to some big cities and small cities, and I will tell you that Pocatello, for the size that it is, gets a big fat F in my book for its walking and adaptations for people with disabilities when it comes to streets. If you go to other cities that are about our size, I mean, they have voice buttons when people are trying to cross. If any of you have been to Boise, the one that says wait, go.
I know we have at least one in town.
We have one, yes, we do have one, yeah. None on Yellowstone that I'm aware of, which is the most heavily used. Today, I had a kid literally walk out in front of me because it's Pokey High School, and traffic is jammed down there in the afternoon. And had there been a flashing light or something, I mean, and I was thinking to myself, man, that's a kid. If that would have been a person with a disability, that could have been really scary. This kid was actually kind of shot back when I was going. So if that would have been someone who maybe didn't see me coming, that could have been really scary. I will tell you guys, I've wrote, I don't know, probably 100 letters to the city about our little crosswalk and flashlights. Any of you that visit New Day, those of you that are out on the sites, you all know that it goes from 0 to 80 about New Day from that stoplight down here. So we've actually asked the police to set up stings. So any of you that drive past New Day, don't speed in this area, because we've actually asked the police to monitor, and they do quite a bit, set up a radar right here just down from our building. So daily living, this doesn't affect us a whole lot here at New Day, but definitely something to be aware of. Zippers, button hooks, long handle shoehorns, reachers, walkers carrying bags, wheelchair cup holders, book stand. And again, some of the cool things that are coming out now, and watching people, I had a person with a disability show me how they control their vacuum with their phone. So they're able to sit there and be able to control the vacuum in their apartment with their phone. It's so cool. I think they spent pretty much half of their life savings for that, but they were pretty excited to have a clean apartment with that app. It was pretty sweet. Mobility, seating, and positioning. This is one, again, just be mindful of this, because this is one you'll see a lot. Again, in Pocatello, we have a lot of growth, and you guys will go to events. I have the Gate City Grays, and I write the city again almost daily, telling them how unfriendly it is to someone in a wheelchair and a walker. We are not ADA compliant, and asking them to make those modifications and renovations. But be aware of that, because I've had to actually go into that ballpark and set up special spaces for people in wheelchairs. And sometimes, now that you work in this field, right, I know you probably didn't know that when you signed on to be a screen printer or an assistant to Hannah that you were going to be an advocate. Well, you are an advocate now because you work in this field, but don't be afraid to say, hey, can we maybe set this area aside for someone with a wheelchair? Just to be able to help accommodate that. Again, any questions? Learning, cognitive, and development. On this one, I get to talk about personal experience. I am so excited. The Those of you that know me know that I have a learning disability. I'm severely dyslexic. I pull up to the stop sign, it says POTS. All my life I've struggled with that. During grade school I suffered with my grades. The teachers always thought I was just lazy, but I really couldn't read very well. So Amazon and Barnes & Noble, there was a gentleman who created a font called Open Dyslexic. If any of you have not had a chance to look at this, please get your hands on a Amazon or a Kindle. What they've done is they've weighted the words. So for example, a B, they've weighted it, they kind of tilted it a little bit and they weighted the bottom of the B. Because in my brain, that B turns into a D sometimes. So I have to go back and reword that word a few times to try and understand what it was, right? Well, they've made it so that my brain doesn't flip that. They've worded the words. And again, I should have that. I should have had a display for you guys on that, and I'll print one out and we can send it to the folks on the video. But if you get a chance, I mean, just open up. It's Open Dyslexic is what it's called, Open Dyslexic. It's on any e-reader. It's usually on smartphones now. I love it because I can actually, you guys probably think I'm just sitting there reading all day, but I can send myself an email to one of those programs and it'll open my email up in that font for me. So it's really beneficial. And if any of you have anybody in your life who suffers from dyslexia, please share this with them because it is a game changer. I went from reading about 100 pages a day to about 200 pages a day after finding this font. Now I just got to figure out how not to get a headache from reading an e-reader. That's my next goal. I believe it or not, again, I don't do this at work, but in my free time I write letters to publishers saying, could you please consider writing actual books in Open Dyslexic font as well, because it'd be great for me to, I love the smell of a book, let's be honest.
Yeah.
My e-reader just doesn't smell the same.
No, it doesn't.
And if it does,
Note takers.
there's something wrong.
What's that?
And if it does, there's something wrong. with
You
it.
might need to fix it quickly. Note-taking systems, reminders, again, that text-to-speech, mobile devices specializing in apps. Kelly, you probably were around for this. I don't think anybody else in this room would have been around, but we had 3-4 people referred to us from the Department of Labor that had hearing impairment. Do you remember those guys? And this is right when smartphones had just kind of come around. But it was really funny because I did an entire intake without saying a word. We just shot text back and forth. Yeah, what street do you live on? And literally we filled out an entire intake with text messages. Again, this is about 7-8 years ago, so fairly new. I mean, yeah, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now, but to them, they were so excited because we were communicating. We actually created a device out in car detailing. You might remember this, Kelly, where it actually had buttons that we would push that highlighted so vacuuming the front seats, vacuuming the back seats. We created that. You'd hit a button. I have an invention that's patent pending. Currently, right now, I invented a reverse agitator that lights up 19 LED lights in the head of a vacuum, so that wherever our car detailers vacuum, they would have light shining. And so I created that. I teamed up with Brigham Young University, Idaho, and we actually built one. So it's patent pending. And then we did a vest that we lit up that all you have to do is cross your arms and it would light up a vest, so no matter where they're at in the car, they have a lighted vest. And that, again, is patent pending. So, Brian, unfortunately, you can't steal that and make millions. And if it ever gets patent pending and we sell it, New Day will make millions, hopefully.
Why am I the one stealing?
Yeah.
Why am
No,
I
I
the
just picked on
specific
Brian.
target?
Yeah, I just picked on Brian. Any questions so far? We can skip the hearing. I guess we kind of talked about hearing. Please, again, please make people mindful of the being able to have speech to text at the bottom of certain movies and stuff. I've been to events where they didn't think about that for people with hearing impairments, and people were left out. You know, it was actually a funeral service, and all they had to do was just hit a button, and it would have just put it at the bottom of the screen. Not 100% accurate, but it's better than sitting there listening, being in complete silence. And it was one of those things where I had to go up and say, hey, can we turn this on real quick? And, you know, I got a couple of applauses at a funeral. It was weird.
I just want to put something in there. Some of the hearing adaptations, they can also help people who aren't hearing impaired, like myself.
Yes.
I have autism, and that causes really like kind of a disconnect between my sensory processing, and so subtitles actually help me during movies, even though I'm not hearing impaired at all. So that's one thing that I've always like advocated for. I wish that they would do that in theaters. They just don't.
They do some noon shows.
Right?
Some.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some, not all, some.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing
Starting
that.
to
Thank
roll
you.
out.
Really appreciate that. Amplified telephones. Again, something, and this is communication. You know, if you're aware that someone might need that, we can help them find that. We can help them get those devices.
Really wish to do that for all telephones.
Yes. Yeah. If you have AT&T, you just might want to consider doing it just cause. Just kidding. Anyone that has AT&T, I like to pick on AT&T, but they have horrible. It's very hard to hear on AT&T. My mom has it.
T-Mobile too.
T-Mobile, yeah. T-Mobile too. And then of course mobile devices with texting or specialized apps. Vision. Again, how cool is the ability for folks to be able to take part in certain things, because there is now the magnifiers, the braille displays, screen reading software, text-to-speech. If you know of anybody also who has hearing impairments, the public library is a great resource. They have multiple programs where they receive federal money to literally take books and turn them into speech to text, or text-to-speech, excuse me, or audiobooks. Libby is a great resource, free to all. And even to the point where, for example, if this book doesn't have an audiobook, they actually have programs where they will put the book in a machine and it can rip it into a text-to-speech format. It may not sound pretty, but they do have that technology now. It might be a little flat-voiced or robotic voice, but
It's Microsoft Sam.
yeah, yeah. But it's better than, again, not being able to have the opportunity to read this book. In fact, and the reason I know that again is because the receptionist we had, we found some really old Westerns. She loved to read Westerns. And before audio tapes, you know, I mean, these were very old Westerns, and we were able to take them in. And unfortunately, they kind of, I think they destroyed the book in the process because they have to like rip it page by page. But really cool that she was able, she at that point, she didn't care. She would rather read the book than have the book, so.
Yeah.
Really, guys, the bottom line is this, kind of in closing, it's just being mindful. And I want to read something real quick again out of this book. She defines disability, right? So one, a physical, mental, cognitive, or developmental condition that impairs, interferes with, or limits a person's ability to engage in a certain task or action or participate in typical daily activities and interactions. I mean, it's not like it's so specific that, you know, this can affect a lot of people. This encompasses a lot of people. So being an advocate and being mindful, again, after today, most of you probably didn't know I struggled reading regular text, right? I mean, but that was an impairment to even doing my job. You know, I needed to be able to have some of that assistance to read the amount of emails or grants that I read on a daily basis. So just being aware, being mindful, and being willing to reach out and help. And of course, listen and being able to be that advocate is huge. Questions, comments? So, last thing we'll talk about, and we'll get out of here, is what does it mean to be an advocate? An advocate means being the ears, eyes, voice, legs, arms, whatever it takes to help another human being. It doesn't take a special degree, it doesn't take a special, you know, certificate, it doesn't take any trainings. It's just being willing to speak up and be there for somebody when they need somebody. Not even speaking up, but just being there. Being willing to say, hey, why don't we consider more crosswalks, or why don't we consider movies with subtext? Why don't we why don't we do this, right? Telling a friend that has a son that has dyslexia, hey, have you tried the Kendall's Open Dyslexic app? Finding a TV that everybody can see. Just being willing to be there and be that person. So grateful that you work here at New Day. Thank you. Thank you for your advocacy already. Like I said, you may have not realized you were signing up. Martha, I know you were going to be an assistant, probably didn't realize you were going to be an advocate as well, but you are now because people will view you as an expert because you work in this field. So be prepared. Continue to familiarize yourself with these things as you go throughout your life because this impacts everyone. So thanks, guys.